Travis Reier and Charlie Potter of the BamaOnline.com staff outside Wednesday's practice at the University of Alabama. We're inside, the Crimson Tide's inside. No big surprise there. Not so much probably about weather, Charlie, but kind of a big game Saturday indoors at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. Although with all the talk about staff attrition here in the last couple of days, it seems as if the game itself has gotten lost. And I suspect when we hear from Nick Saban here in a little bit after this is taped, I think he might do a good job of trying to recenter everyone about what's going to take place on Saturday. What do you think?
I mean, that's one way of putting it. You know, I think he could have a decent amount
Conniption?
to say. Yeah. At the same time, though, I don't think he'll talk much just about the Kirby Smart situation because that has been finalized. You know, that's something that is supposed to be, I guess, worked out as early as Sunday, but it hasn't yet. So, I mean, I think everybody expects it too, but he's not going to comment on something that isn't even official yet. But having said that, I don't know if he'll even get one question concerning the SEC championship game, which is obviously a big deal. They were in there. Kirby was at practice, so was Scott Cochran, and they're obviously preparing for this team, but not many other people are. I mean, it's news. I mean, I get that, but it's just interesting that a game this magnitude is being overlooked and taking a backseat to this.
Yeah, and as you said, good luck. And he's going to get questions about it. He knows that,
yeah.
And he'll be prepared for it. I think it's more of interest about the timeline of the transition with Kirby Smart at this point. It's not so much that he's going or that we already know he's going. It's how will it take place, assuming they beat Florida on Saturday and qualify for the college football playoff. Most importantly, is he around for that playoff? And we've seen it work that way under Nick Saban in the past. Jim McElwain, obviously, in 2011, hung around for the 2012 BCS National Championship game against LSU. Might be a little bit different circumstance here, though, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Georgia and Colorado State are comparable in that regard. And the thing is, with it not being official, I don't think he knows what's going to happen, which is a little bit concerning just for the fact that this defense has been so good this season.
Mm-hmm.
You throw a cog in the machine that's been running pretty efficiently of late. What's going to happen? Especially, if things stay the way they are, Alabama could meet an offensive team that is rolling in Oklahoma.
High quarterbacks,
yeah. And that could be a bad blow in terms of just the draw that they receive. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I don't see him saying anything about it tonight about how things are going to move forward past Saturday. I mean, I think he's just going to be adamant that Kirby's here now. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, and Saban's not a part of what I feel like is going to be the determining factor in all that, and that's the Georgia side. If Georgia's in its negotiations on the bullet points of a fundamental deal is that you need to come to Athens as soon as the SEC championship game's over, or it's a deal breaker, and Kirby's accepted that, then that takes care of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Saban wants him here. I think Kirby's going to want to coach through the college football playoff because really, in terms of recruiting, I know that's what it gets all pinned back on. We're about to enter a dead period for about a month, from December 13th to around January 13th. So there's not going to be a lot of travel in houses and things like that for these guys. You can do a lot of the recruiting you're allowed to do with phones or whatever from anywhere. But, again, if Georgia pretty much handed down a mandate of you're in Athens on Monday after the SEC championship game, then that could play a role. But as for the game itself, looking at this matchup defensively, Florida, that's what most of the talk has been about, and rightfully so, because when you look at all three levels of that defense, they're capable of giving this Alabama offense all at once.
Yeah, I mean, I think their number one priority is going to be try to stop Derrick Henry. And Florida's a team that can actually load the box and still have success on the outside. I mean, they have two of the best corners in the SEC and maybe even the country, in Vernon Hargraves and Jalen Tabor. And those guys can do a good job of shutting down Calvin Ridley and Ardarius Stewart and even Richard Mullaney. So make life a little harder for Jake Coker if the game is pinned on his shoulders. I still think, though, the way that Alabama's offensive line has been playing of late and the different looks, I guess, they've given with bringing Brandon Green into the game, We've seen Hell Hinges, he's developed as a blocker too. We've seen some different looks from Alabama that has made it easier to run the football. And not only that, like I said, the offensive line is progressing. I think Derrick Henry's going to get his. So that part of the game is up in the air. Florida's probably the best team equipped to slow down Derrick Henry. I just don't think it'll slow him down completely. I think on the flip side of that, I know you're probably about to talk about it too, that how does Alabama's offense match, or how does Alabama's defense match up with Florida's offense? I don't think that Florida can really score enough to stay in that game. I think that's why what Alabama can do offensively is the key in the game.
Yeah, it is. And Alabama has that luxury that we've talked about before. They can be patient.
Yeah.
There's no need to take gambles or risks with the offense or the defense. They don't have to blitz to get pressure on your quarterback. They don't have to take chances with the quarterback or the passing game on the other side of the ball. They have become very good all around in the kicking game, so they can get production from that area as well. The belief or the perception, I think, is keep it close, get it to the second half, and then have your shot. And that's what Auburn did last week. They were effective in the first half of kind of shortening the game. The problem is Derrick Henry doesn't get weaker in the second half. They just commit more to it. Florida's a little beat up in that front seven too, especially up front. So that could be a problem depth-wise when you get to the second half. But I'm with you. End of the day, the biggest question, like it was last week, really is can Florida get enough out of its offense, specifically the quarterback play in the passing game, to really have a chance to score enough? And I think the answer is the same as it was last week. It's going to have to happen with Florida being up a couple in turnover margin, not one or even.
Yeah.
They got to be up 2 or 3, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. You got to make Jay Coker make mistakes because, I think we're both in agreement that with a beat-up defensive front, that Derrick Henry is going to get his, especially as the game goes on. That's just how it's been all season. I don't think that's going to change this Saturday. So you're going to have to, play some exotic coverages, do what you need to do to confuse Jay Coker, to apply pressure on him and make him make a quick decision like we've seen him struggle in the past. I know it's away from Bryant Denny, which has been his weakness this season, but ultimately that's what it's going to come down to.
A couple of good punters in this game too. I know it didn't get talked about a lot. Johnny Townsend for Florida, J.K. Scott for Alabama. Both offenses could be on the long field for pretty much the duration of Saturday's game, again, depending on turnovers. So should be a lot of fun. What kind of score do you see? What are you projecting?
I think it could be kind of similar to the Iron Bowl. I could see Florida scoring about 13, 14 points. And that's really their ceiling. They scored 2 points against Florida State, and I don't think Florida State's defense is anywhere close to Alabama's. Alabama does have the distractions of this week, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But I think at the end of the day, leaders like Reggie Ragland and the guys on the defensive front step up and get this win, especially if it might be the last they have with Kirby Smart. I think Alabama offensively, I think it could get about that 28, 30, 31-point range. So I think it's really similar to what we saw last week.
Yeah, I agree with that. So should be very interesting over in Atlanta. Look forward to meeting up with you at the Georgia Dome on Saturday. Kickoff set for a little after 3 p.m. Central Time on CBS. So safe travels to all the Alabama fans out there. Stay tuned to BamaOnline.com as we have continuing coverage of Kirby Smart, Alabama, and the SEC championship game. For Charlie Potter, I'm Travis Reier. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Instant Analysis.